Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the PDI trigger from Hiperfire. So what we're going to do today is change out the trigger on the AR that I built. Initially when I built this gun, I just had pretty much a standard mil-spec trigger that I put in here. It's not anything that is much better than mil-spec. It's a little bit smoother than mil-spec, but not a whole lot. Before we swap out the mil-spec trigger that's on this one to the new PDI, then I want to show you what the trigger pull weight is on this particular gun. And I will, there's nothing in the chamber. Okay, so when we pull the trigger, okay, that was 6.67 pounds. Okay, that one broke at 5.13 and a half pounds. So let's do one more time. Okay, so 6 pounds, 9.6 ounces is what we come up with on that. So of the three that we did there, then we've got a little over a 6 pound trigger pull in this gun as it sits now. So we're going to be working with the fire control group here in the lower receiver. So we'll need to take a punch and drive out the pins from the hammer pin here and the trigger pin. So there is the original parts for the fire control group, and they are. So you can see it's just kind of a mil-spec trigger group. There's nothing really special about it. Does have the, I think this one's got a titanium boron coating or something like that on it to make it a little bit slicker, but it's not really anything special as far as the trigger itself. It's just a mil-spec trigger. Okay, so when you get the packaging open, the first thing you'll notice is the small parts bag here, and this has 2 Allen wrenches, 2 pins, and then 4 little screws in it. So this is the parts to be able to put the new trigger back in. And then you get the instructions for everything here, and a blown up diagram of what the inside of the trigger looks like. But unlike the old trigger, this one is a drop-in trigger, so it has everything built into one piece. So all you have to do is just get this wiggled into place, and we'll have to kind of work the back of the trigger piece here underneath the safety so that we can get it in place where it needs to be. And this one also has the little trigger shoe here on the cassette. It's on the base of the trigger there, and what that little shoe does is you can adjust that up or down on the trigger itself to be able to kind of adjust the feel of the trigger to make it feel like it's a little bit lighter or heavier based on where it is on the gun itself. But to get it into the hole here, we're going to have to take this off. So let's just slide that off of the trigger itself. So it's just a little plastic piece that mounts to the bottom of the trigger. And the new trigger is a straight trigger. It's not curved like the old trigger. So this one is a straight. Get it? Okay, so now that both pins are in, now we can do a function test to see if this thing is going to work with the selector before we put the screws in. So let's go ahead and check out the function on it. Now, you don't want to let the hammer just hit the bottom of the lower here, because it can damage the lower receiver since it doesn't have anything here to stop the hammer. So we've got the selector switch on fire. We're going to go ahead and that's all the way back to the full cock position there. So now I'm just going to keep my thumb on the hammer. Okay, so it releases. Oop, didn't hold it in time there. So just yep, so that's going to function properly that way. So let's put it back on full cocked and turn the safety selector. So now it should not fire, and it doesn't. Okay. So these little screws here, that comes with 2 Allen wrenches. So you can put the screw on here and go ahead and get one started onto it. Now we're going to just use the 2 screws to work with each other and get it tightened up. So we'll use one screw to hold the other one. Okay, that actually has a little bit of play because I've gotten both screws tightened up, so it's got a little bit of play on the receiver. So the pin is just a little bit longer than the receiver is wide. So it's supposed to be designed so that it is inside the lower receiver, but we shouldn't have to worry about the screws coming out because it does have the Loctite on the threads of the screws, so it's going to keep the screws in there. They shouldn't walk back out by themselves. But it's also, since it is a little bit wider than the receiver is itself, you also know that it's not going to bind the trigger mechanism because it's not going to be pulling in the side of the lower. The bolt release still works there, and the safety switches back and forth. Since I forgot to put the shoe back on, instead of taking this back apart, this trigger guard here, I've got a separate piece, and it's got screws in it, so I can just drop the trigger guard down and take care of it that way. Finished taking the trigger guard out, so now this little piece just slides on the bottom of the trigger itself, and it's got different adjustment points here to be able to change the way the trigger feels as far as the how hard the trigger press is. So let's get the trigger gauge back out. Now, we've got the selector on fire. Now, we'll put my thumb here to catch this thing. So in this lower position right here, this is the lowest position, releases at 1.96 or 1 ounce, 1 pound, 9.6 ounces for that one. So this is supposed to be a 2-pound trigger. Okay, 1 pound, 14.7. One pound, 13.1. So when you average those, 1 pound, 12.5 ounces. And that's with the shoe all the way down to the bottom. So when you are pulling the trigger, it has just a little bit of creep. So it also releases very quickly. So when you're pulling the trigger, it just barely moves, and then it releases. So it's a very light trigger, doesn't take a whole lot of pressure at all. Now what the shoe is, you can slide this up. So we'll slide it up 3 notches now. So where I would normally put my finger to pull the trigger, let's go back down to where I would put it on safe. So that's about where I would probably normally have the trigger. So now we'll put it back to fire. So this is a couple of positions up from the very bottom. We'll see if what that does to the trigger pull. Okay, that said 2 pounds, 2.4 ounces. £1 pound, 11.8 ounces. So I think that first one may have been a mess up there. So let's back to 0. Right at 2 pounds. So the trigger pull on this one is significantly lighter than what it was on the original mil-spec trigger. So we'll get everything put back together, and next time we'll go out on the range and test fire this and see how it does as far as firing the gun, see if it makes a difference in how easy or hard it is to shoot the gun and keep it on target. But with the trigger having no more pound weight to be able to pull it, it's very easy, so you're not going to have to have a real heavy trigger press to be able to get the gun to fire. But another thing we'll look at right quick is the reset on the trigger. So we'll go ahead and pull the trigger and let it release. Now, keeping the so it has a very audible reset when the hammer starts to go back. So it breaks right there, and then the reset as the hammer goes back, very minimal movement back, and then once the hammer gets pushed all the way back when the gun recoils to and the bolt carry goes all the way back, then it's going to reset that trigger. Check out doubleeaglegunworks.com, and we'll have links on the article to the PDI trigger from Hiperfire, so that you can take a look at that. Price on this trigger is not bad. Suggested retail for the trigger itself from Hiperfire is $180. If you can find it sometimes on sale at different places, but the majority of the places that I saw that had it for around $171 is usually what you find the thing for. You can catch them. I happened to catch this one on sale at Optics Planet, was able to save a little bit more money, and also they had a 2-day shipping deal to go along with it. So check out doubleeaglegunworks.com for more information, and like and subscribe down at the bottom. We'll talk to you later.